Hey there, Radioheads. Welcome to another episode of Radio KBE. As always, I appreciate any ratings, reviews, shares, likes, whatever you can do to share the podcast with the rest of your Laker friends or whatever. It's always helpful, and I appreciate it very much. So, in this episode, I wanted to talk about just the past couple games that we've seen with the Lakers, and focus a little bit on the game that we had with the Warriors that just happened recently. On top of that, one of the other things I'd like to talk about is Lonnie Walker and Kendrick Nunn and how they're sort of being used and how some of these certain role players are being used. So let's talk about the first two games that we saw, the most recent games that we just had. Against the Warriors, the Lakers looked pretty good. They finally broke their preseason losing streak that dated back since last season, and they ended up winning that game in somewhat close fashion. They closed it out with their third stringers and Matt Ryan, who is sort of a journeyman, I guess you could say, because he's been with a few G League teams. He's from Tennessee, from Chattanooga. He played at Chattanooga. Um, he had a sensational game, just shooting the ball, coming off the screens, doing a lot of different things. It was sort of an eye-opening thing. And if you watch sort of Lakers media or you watched him on television, you saw LeBron sort of motion to get him signed. And currently he's on a Exhibit 9 summer contract for the Lakers. So if they want to hold on to him, they definitely can. And all they have to do is just carry him into the regular season, and he'll basically be an unguaranteed contract, but he'll be essentially our 15th guy. Uh, that could lead to some sort of trickiness that goes on with the Lakers because you can't have more than 15 guys on your roster. And as of right now, the Lakers have 12 guaranteed contracts. And then we have two non guaranteed contracts in Wendy Gabriel and Austin Reeves. So Matt Ryan would be like the third one. So essentially, it means they could be waived at any time in case we had to make room for another player, via buyout, or if just something happened and we had to create an extra roster spot, we could do so. But it was good to see just some shooting and see the guys sort of knock down their shots. The one interesting part I would say in that Warriors game was sort of the usage of Lonnie Walker and Kendrick Nunn in lineups that had Anthony Davis at the five or had sort of a rim running center or a good screener at the five. There's been a theme that's been playing on with this Lakers team that I think is a layer that the coaching staff and Coach Ham is looking at. And it's a manner in which that he's looking at that I think is sort of bringing out some of the better parts of what is going on with this roster combination and all the different players that we have on this team, including some of the redundant stuff that we have with so many guards. When Darvin Ham is playing certain lineups, he's playing guys with very clear intentions. So I'm just going to repeat that one more time. Not only is he playing guys with certain skill sets, he's playing guys with certain intention. And I think that's an important part of just this entire experience so far that I think I've really enjoyed. And I think it's something that Laker fans should be able to enjoy. Essentially, what's happening is Ham is playing players based on just kind of what he knows they like to do. So Kendrick Nunn is really, the reason why I think he's probably best suited to come off the bench as a sixth man is because he's just a scorer. When he has the ball in his hand, he has a knack for, just getting buckets. He can score in the mid range, hit open threes. He can navigate a pick and roll, and he can do some ball distribution, which is, helpful to some degree. Same thing with Lonnie Walker. He's essentially a scorer, and he's been sort of miscast in a role where he was expected to be sort of this 3-and-D guy for the Spurs. It doesn't mean that he wasn't capable of doing it, or he can't do it, or that the Spurs were wrong for using him in that situation. It was just a matter of the role that he was in with the roster that they had at the time, with DeJounte Murray and Derek White playing for over half the season until Derek White got traded. But then you look at the way that Darvin Ham is using both Lonnie Walker and Kendrick Nunn, and then the combinations that he uses them, next to a guy like Austin Reeves, next to shooters. It's really important to understand that when you play guys who are looking to score, and you're running an offense where Anthony Davis is playing the five, where you don't want him to be the guy who's constantly trying to score, it helps everybody out. So when Kendrick Nunn is hitting his open shots or he's getting really high quality looks, and so is Lonnie Walker, it actually helps everybody. It helps Anthony Davis. It takes that offensive burden off of him. But you can't just do that by designating roles and telling players, hey, I want you to shoot the ball. I don't want you to shoot it. I think the way this works out is knowing what the player's natural intention is. When Kendrick gets the ball or when Lonnie gets the ball, their intention naturally as players is to attack the rim or to try and score. And if they can't score, try and make a play for their teammates out of any advantages that come up. And then when you flip that and you look at guys like Wenyen Gabriel and Juan Toscano Anderson, they're not necessarily looking to score. They're just looking to make plays for their teammates. They're looking to get offensive rebounds, tip outs, run outs so that they can beat their man down the floor, get easy shots, play good defense. And I think Darvin Ham has done a really wonderful job really understanding what the intention of the players are and what makes them who they are. Obviously, he has a baseline level of defense that he expects out of the team. And I think he has that standard for everybody. I think Anthony Davis has alluded to that. But the way that he sort of uses his lineups and the way that he deploys players where their intentions are naturally complementary to each other is very interesting to see. And it's something that's worth keeping track of. It's almost a layer that you have to pay attention to. It's like a layer of coaching you have to pay attention to that you wouldn't be able to see on tape. You don't see it in any film breakdown, you don't see it in any analytics data. You just have to watch and you have to see how well they naturally fit into those roles. And I'm not surprised that Kendrick Nunn and Lonnie, when Anthony Davis is at the five in more of a passive offensive role, but just, being available, screening and stuff like that, I'm not surprised that they're successful. I'm not surprised that Wenyen Gabriel and Juan Toscano Anderson are also successful in these roles where they just have to hustle and rebound and play defense and help and do those sort of things. And I think that's going to be one of the bigger things, the biggest differences that we'll see out of this team. It's not going to be just about can you play your role and play it well. It's also, does the coach understand what you're good at? Can the coach put you in a position with the right combination of players to be able to do what you're good at and have it naturally flow into whatever the your teammate is good at? So it's going to be very fascinating to see how this sort of continues to develop as we have our big three with Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Russ, and then how the other pieces fit in, especially with Dennis Schroeder coming back. So I'm going to be really interested to see how things go. But overall, the team has looked really good from a defensive standpoint and just from a standpoint of playing with more tenacity and more aggression and like a higher level of defensive discipline. So as always, if you can like, share, subscribe, I always appreciate it. As we get closer to the regular season starting, we'll be a little bit more frequent. I'll be more frequent with these podcast episodes. But as always, I appreciate you listening. I hope you have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening. And I appreciate you giving me 8 minutes of your day to talk about Lakers basketball. I'll see you in the next episode.